What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is discussing how to gain 1,000 arena points per day in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 3. What I'll be doing is going over a ton of tips and strategies that I have that'll allow you to not only reach Champions League super quickly, but continue gaining points into Division 10 and beyond. With that said, if this video does help you out, then be sure to drop a like on it, and consider subscribing as well if you want to see more content just like this in the future. As well as that, consider using code Teckoh in the item shop, as it's 100% free and it really helps your boy out a ton. But with that said, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So getting straight into our tips for this video, we're going to start off with a simple yet effective tip, and that's grinding Trio Arena. The point system actually hasn't had any changes in Season 3, so the best game mode is the same as it was in Seasons 1 and 2, and that's Trios. Playing Trio Arena is easily the best option simply due to its elimination points. In every single game mode, if I'm not mistaken, you get 10 points per kill once you're in Champs. And since it's easier to get something like 20 or 30 kills in trios compared to solos or duos, obviously, mainly since your team size is larger, trios is the clear favorite in that regard. Another factor with trios that often goes overlooked is the clutch factor of it as well. I really like trios for the fact that even if one or two teammates goes down, you can still get their card, reboot, and get back into the game. A team of well-coordinated players who know how to sneak around is definitely really powerful in trios, and the ability to clutch up with one or two players and continue on makes it a super fantastic option, and that's especially when it comes to placement points. Overall, from both a numerical and logical perspective, Trios is definitely the best arena game mode right now, and playing it on a consistent basis is going to be super powerful when it comes to gaining points consistently, especially if you're more the W key type, since you can rack up insane amounts of kills relatively quickly. One key aspect of Trios, of course, is going to be your teammates, and that's why I also wanted to take a moment to discuss finding the perfect team. Finding teammates for Trios is a pretty tedious process, but it also eliminates tons of struggle when it comes to constantly trying out different teammates you don't know, being mismatched, and searching all over again. So as annoying as the process can be at times, finding two good teammates to play with consistently is going to be super crucial in gaining 1,000 points per day consistently. And honestly, there's really no secret sauce when it comes to finding teammates. I recommend you join a Discord server for it and type a message about what kind of player you are and what you're looking for in a teammate. And if you're looking for a trio, I'd strongly urge you to check out my Discord server, which is going to be linked down in the description. When you join the server, simply head to the select region channel, click on your region, and then you're going to gain access to the looking for group chat, and you'll be able to search for teammates from there. It's super simple, so if you want to check out the server, the link is going to be right near the top of the description. So hopping into the next section of today's video, now that we've gone over some of the fundamentals as to how you should try to gain points fast, for the next part of today's video, I'll be discussing a bunch of crucial gameplay tips specifically tailored towards trios that'll help you gain points super quickly. Getting into our first gameplay related tip for this video, I want to talk very briefly about early game. Now in Arena, I'd argue that early game is the part of the game where you'll end up losing the most points, but also the part of the game that can set you up to gain insane amounts of points, if that makes sense. When it comes to early game in trios, the whole process is really simple. First, find a good drop spot that matches the preferred level of aggression for you or your team. I'd say that for the most part though, the biggest key for early game is going to be securing good loot, materials, and HP off spawn, and then simply playing together as a team. In trios, I'd recommend you shoot for at least 300 materials per person, a shotgun, and an automatic weapon of sort, as well as a minimum of 50 shield and preferably 100 each before you choose to push into fights. Of course, this also depends on the exact situation, and sometimes it isn't possible, but that should have you in really good shape for fighting if you can get it done. And the other key that I mentioned was simply playing as a team. If you watch back your games as a trio and look at why you died off spawn, at least when I do it personally, around 75% of the time, the problem is that the team got split apart. And when your team gets split apart in trios especially, you're basically just going to get picked off one by one and you don't stand a chance. Unless you're some of the best fighters in the game, which realistically you probably aren't. It's extremely difficult to 1v3 in early game arena, so I urge you to land somewhat close together, secure some loot, HP, and materials, and always play as one unit in your early game. If you can do all this, your early game should go so much smoother and you should be in really good shape when it comes to gaining points. Moving on to our next tip though, and this is going to relate to taking fights. When it comes to taking fights, a lot of the skill gap here doesn't actually come in knowing which fights to take, as most of us have more than enough knowledge to actually do that. But the real key here is the level of aggression and I guess assertiveness that you approach a fight with. Arena players for the most part love to W key, and especially in divisions below champs, they won't hesitate to throw their entire game to fight you regardless of the situation. So the real key here is to win the mental game. If your opponent gets on high ground early in the fight and you're basically cowered up below them hoping for the best, your odds of winning that fight have dramatically dropped. That's not because of your actual skill or positioning, but the fact that you've shown your opponent that you're either nervous or in shambles, and due to that, they're going to be 10 times more confident in pushing you. On the other hand, if you realize there's a fight and you get the jump on your opponent and you don't hesitate to start applying pressure, you're basically going to get in their head and it'll make it so much easier for you to secure the fight. My overarching point here is basically the momentum is absolutely key in arena fights, and showing your opponent any sort of weakness or nerves is a really dangerous idea unless you're actually in shambles or need to heal up and whatnot. An aggressive yet controlled playstyle is definitely really important in fights, so if you decide to push a fight, then commit to it and don't risk putting yourself in a bad situation due to hesitation. And on to our last specific gameplay tip for gaining 1,000 points per day, and that's simply to remain consistent even when things get difficult. I know it's a really simple tip, but the truth is that arena can really be demotivating at times, as you probably know, and you're going to have ups and downs. That being said, the biggest key to gaining arena points consistently, as you might expect, is simply playing consistently. And a big factor when it comes to the amount of points you gain is simply going to be how much time you actually spend playing arena. And I will say that I've seen so many different examples of players who are super mediocre at the game. They're basically just average, and then they proceed to literally grind arena non-stop, get upwards of like 50,000 points in one season, and became absolutely insane at the game. My basic point here is that time played and general experience is almost always going to end up on top, regardless of which fancy strategies or practice methods you could have otherwise used. By simply playing arena a ton, you'll put yourself in the best possible situation to gain arena points, and I've yet to ever see a situation where someone grinded arena to the tune of like 500 plus matches a season and didn't dramatically improve at the game during that time. As well as that, this has a bit of an exponential / cycle effect, since the more you play, the more you'll improve and the more points you'll be able to get per match since you've improved, and that cycle basically repeats until you're basically an arena machine. So the moral of the story is that time played comes before everything else. So find your teammates, preferably in my Discord server, which is going to be linked near the top of the description, and get to work. With that said, guys, moving on to the last part of today's video, I want to take a minute to talk about something that kind of goes unnoticed when it comes to gaining arena points, and that's hype cups. Now, this really only applies to Open League and Contender League, but if you're on the road to champs and you're trying to get there quickly, hype cups are basically a cheat code for doing that. In Season 3, there are 4 different hype cups you can play in. These include the Solo Open League, the Duo Open League, the Solo Contender League, and the Duo Contender League. These tournaments are also held on 2 different days, so you can play in 2 of them per week throughout the entire season, if I'm not mistaken. Without going into too much crazy detail just for the sake of time, these tournaments are laid out in a way where you can get placement points throughout almost the entire match, as well as a respectable amount of elimination points. Depending on which one you play, for literally getting 10 points in the tournament, aka not literally dying off spawn every single game, you're either going to get 100 or 200 points for that. That also bumps up super significantly if you get top 1000, top 500, etc. And you'd be really surprised by how easy that actually is in hype cups. So you can basically get anywhere from 100 to 200 points if you literally just play enough to get 10 points in the tournament, which is like 10 minutes of work. And you can get upwards of 1,000 arena points if you manage to place pretty well, which is pretty dang solid when you consider that there's 0 bus fare and literally 0 risk. So if you do find yourself struggling to gain points in the Open to Contender Leagues, although I'd recommend you try to practice and focus on improving for a long-term strategy, I also would say that this is a pretty solid option if you want to give your points an easy boost. But with all that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to gain 1,000 arena points per day in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 3. In conclusion, if you can find a good team to play trios with, optimize your strategy to survive early game and fight together properly, and then do that consistently over time, you should be in a really good spot to not only gain 1,000 or more arena points per day, but also improve the game dramatically in the process. If you found this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it, and consider subscribing as well if you want to see more content just like this in the future. As well as that, if you want to show some extra support, then consider using code Teckoh in the Fortnite item shop, as it's 100% free and it really helps your boy out a ton. With that said though, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.